Welcome to another chapter of In the Keep podcast. I'm your very own prophet of the drowned god, the Motherlode. This show is all about the world of arena first-person shooters, classic FPS games, their legacies, their lineage, and the people who keep that world turning. These are the players, the developers, the streamers, the influencers. It is the will of the drowned god Cathal that our communities band together in her cathedral to frag and give one another into oblivion for all eternity. It's time for your mid-month montage of more maximum Quake mayhem with your friend, the Motherlode. I don't know, it's a lot of M's in there. A little bit of housekeeping before I introduce the guest. First of all, just want to thank everybody for the awesome response that we got to the Locktar episode. It was very important to me because, you know, it was the first episode on our new host, and I was worried that people weren't going to hear about it or that it would be hard to rebuild the audience, and it will be, and it still is, but holy fucking shit, man, you guys really showed up for us, and I hope that continues to happen because I'm going to continue to do this either way. And I want to thank Smango for helping with everything, everybody involved. Like I know I'm just everyone who helped out, which is a lot of people. It's Spaced, Haducant, Smango, all the people who posted around or allowed me to post in their servers, like all that stuff. But specifically Smango, because he put it on QuakeFans.net and allowed me to also post all of the episodes there, which kind of created a homepage. You can check that out. And that is actually the number one place other than YouTube, like the number one actual like listening online place where people are getting the podcast so far. And I'm super stoked about that. And I don't want to say surprised because I knew QuakeFans.net was getting popular, but like, man, like that is a hell of a response we saw from them. So kudos and thanks to everyone. So let's get into this week's guest. And that guy is Messiah. Messiah is a motherfucking genius. He's a cool son of a bitch, man. I love that guy. He's an admin for the United States Quake Community, and he like manages all the Quake servers and events and everything there. And his team, which is basically him and NationwideMoose and a few other guys, run this channel, the USQC, and they're at the tip of the spear. Like they're putting forth the effort to revitalize the QuakeWorld and the arena shooter community. It's just like all the Quakes, specifically, QuakeWorld, Quake 1, Nquake, all that stuff. And Doom, the rest of the Quakes, everything, man. They're kicking ass. And I really, really enjoyed it. If you haven't heard NationwideMoose episode on QuakeCast over with Dump Truck and RC, I'd highly recommend that too, because it was great. Yeah, so that's pretty much all I got. Let's get in the keep with Messiah.
How's it going?
Introduce yourself, man. What are you all about? What do you do?
Well, I am the admin of a Discord community called the US Quake Community. And what we do is essentially look to preserve most and continue to play games that are based on id Tech software, usually basically id Tech 2 and id Tech 3 stuff, but we also play Doom as well.
It's just, that's all it is for you guys. Like absolutely nothing id didn't make. It'll never be there.
Well, I mean, I think that's what our focus is. And we do also do events for stuff like Quake Champions. Mm-hmm. Modern games as well, I guess, but usually related to Quake. But yeah, just trying to have a smaller, maybe community of Quake Champions players that we could also bring into other games like Quake 3 or QuakeWorld.
You guys are not small by any stretch of the imagination. I guess if you consider like the size of the official Quake Discord or something along those lines a bit. I was really impressed. I joined your Discord like months ago. And it was still like, okay, well, I guess this isn't happening. It was like 20, 30 people. And then I heard Moose on QuakeCast, and I was like, I guess I should go check it out. And you guys have grown exponentially since then.
Yeah. it's a big help having everybody's involvement to try to reach out there to their social media bases to see if anybody's interested in playing classic Quake or Doom, and you'd be surprised at the number of people in real life even that I've spoken to that just say, hey, you remember playing Quake? You remember playing Doom? And they're like, oh yeah, can you still do that? And a lot of people aren't even aware of modern open source clients for these games. That you can play at high resolution or new texture packs, or the options are limitless. So yeah, we've really been reaching out there and trying to bring people into the community and keep these old games alive.
I think you've done an excellent job, especially like I was kind of jealous when I looked at your channel versus my channel and I saw the configs page you guys have, or the category for it's so awesome. And it's still difficult for someone, especially if they've never played older games like that before. Just the process of learning how to do configs is annoying, but the fact that you make that information, I don't know if it was you personally or someone in your Discord, made that so easily available is that's a testament to why you guys are so successful, I think.
I would agree. We have spent a lot of time reaching out there to, let's say, semi-professional at this point members of these communities, because they still exist there, in QuakeWorld and Quake 3 specifically, because both of those games require a good amount of tweaking in your config. But there's a good base of what you kind of need to do, setting your rate, setting your frame rate, just adjusting certain things to make you competitive, even in free-for-all. But yeah, it is a difficult thing. Newer games, people don't really think about their configuration other than what's in the HUD. So yeah, we've just sort of gathered the best classic minds that are still doing this stuff and try to compile all that information in a way that's easily accessible for people. We are trying to do example configs too, but the difficulty there a little bit is sometimes people are on different versions of engines and clients. So more often we just kind of give examples of like, here you go, put these in your console, save that out, and then kind of go from there.
I think it's a great project to have going on, and it makes me feel better knowing I don't have to do that now. I can just point people like, go to this. Like I put your guys' link in my channel, which has a place called Allied Channels. Everyone that I like support or I think is useful in some way, I put them in there, and that way if someone comes to me and they say like, hey, I don't know how to do the configs to say, I don't know, Quake 2, like, well, even if I personally don't know that information, I love being able to just say like, go to this guy or go to this place and they can tell you. Delegation in a way. But
absolutely. Yeah, we have a similar thing. We set up a Discord link page for games that we don't necessarily specialize in, or that communities that we reach out to for information as well. HumanBones, who you, I think, interviewed recently, we have his Doom Multiplayer Federation Discord link, right there in our Discord links. And yeah, we play Doom and we have a Doom server, but we're not the best source of information for Doom configs and for Doom, specialized events and stuff like that. So we point them there, similar to what you're doing there. And it's really good for people, I think, to see an easy collection of places to just go and be like, all right, well, what do I do? Where do I go? How do I play? Makes it easy for people to get involved.
Yeah, I love talking to Bones. He was just a really great guest to have on, and I feel like I could have talked to him for like 5 more hours because he had so much just knowledge going back. And as soon as I posted that thing, I immediately got I don't remember who it was, but someone was like upset that we had mentioned Dwango at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they just did. I don't know why. So people, I guess, have a bad taste in their mouth from back in the day with Dwango. I didn't even know much about it or how it worked. I was just asking. But. Yeah,
Doom is such an old community. There's all these different subsections. In Quake, it's similar. I think the big difference in Quake is that there are 2 solid netcode bases that people still play. NetQuake and QuakeWorld, and they have slightly different physics, but the game is essentially the same. And so you do have a division there as well in that community. So in Doom, I can definitely see similar situations popping up, especially where they've been through so many different iterations of source ports and multiplayer ports and Z-Daemon and Xandorum and all that stuff.
I definitely don't want to disparage either group, and I'm speaking just from what I personally have observed. But I would definitely say there's a lot more division in Doom than there is in the Quake community, and and even though there's more Quake games that people still play, most people that play Quake 3 are willing to give, like, I don't know, Quake Champions at least a dry run or something.
Yep.
It's not like this animosity. I don't observe a tremendous amount of animosity. Definitely some people hate Quake Champions, and that's fine, and I support their First Amendment right to express their opinion. But it is,
yeah.
But within Doom, it's like, as you were saying, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
No, it's fine. I was just saying that, yeah, Doom, honestly, I think the thing there is Doom is a more populated community. That's sort of the thing. And with more people comes more opinions and different projects. There's a lot of different Doom projects out there. We're talking Chocolate and Crispy and Otomex and, all these different projects have their own communities and they all have their own limitations too. I mean, there's so many different versions, if something's Z-Doom compatible or if it's Boom compatible or if it's XYZ, this map or that map. It's a lot to keep up with. And that's kind of the reason I'm pointing them to the Multiplayer Doom Federation, because I don't know all that information. So, yeah.
So what was your introduction into that? You already told me a little bit off air, but I want to get into your story that you told before about, so you grew up with a NetQuake server in your basement. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, in my house. Yeah.
Okay.
I was in the computer room in my house. Yep. Yeah, my dad got into Quake as soon as it came out. I mean, he played Doom as well. I don't think he ever got online with that, but yeah, I mean, he got so into Quake that, yeah, we set up, this server was a full-size server tower from the 90s. So if you could picture that was taller than me back in the day. And yeah, it sounded like a jet engine when you turned it on. And that hum, I can actually still kind of hear it. You know what I mean? But either way, yeah, we ran a NetQuake server on that so we could play locally for co-op and practice multiplayer maps. And then that server actually dialed out to the internet on a dial-up connection so that other people could connect to the server, and then we could connect to the server or connect out to the internet through that server. So yeah, I was really young at the time, but it made a big impression on me, just going from Super Nintendo and playing Mario to being able to play with people from around the world. And yeah, we had a 300 ping, and yeah, it was kind of laggy and hard to play sometimes, but it was awesome. It was something that definitely made an impact on me in my life. And when I wanted to play myself, I actually, with my dad's help, got a computer together and something that could play Quake. And from that point, I had a shareware copy of Quake, but I couldn't play it, with all the new maps or any episodes besides episode 1 or all those things, on his server online. So, my dad had told me, hey, if you just copy my pack files, it'll work. You'll have all the maps. And I was like, well, I really want to figure out why it doesn't work. So I grabbed a pack editor and downloaded that on his computer and then opened his pack files. And then somehow I got mine on his. I don't really remember at the time, file sharing an NT4 somehow. But yeah, I noticed when I opened both packs that, of course, the maps are missing. But the other thing that was missing was a singular file name. And it didn't have any extension, and I forget what the name of the file was, but the engine just simply checked if it was there in the pack, and then the rest of the episode maps were there. So once I put the file, I just created a file name in the pack, the same file with no extension, copied over all the episode maps, and boom, I loaded up my game. And once I got the packs back to my computer, and I was able to, play all the episodes and, play online and play on his server. So, from there, I mean, that really started my love affair with computers, computer hardware and software and IT. And I mean, that's what I do as a day job. So, yeah, it's really special to me. And I feel like, when I reinstalled Quake, and I've done it many, many times over the years, whether it's NetQuake or QuakeWorld, and in either case, every time I load it up, there's either one server in the U.S., somebody playing Team Fortress, or there's empty servers in NetQuake because the Quake1.com community kind of fell off, and that kind of community kind of went away. And time and time again, I just kept reinstalling it, looking to see if anybody ever still played. And, this last time I just started playing Team Fortress because I really wanted to get into it, kind of ask those guys like, hey, does anybody play FFA or team games or 2-on-2 or classic maps or, that kind of stuff. And the answer I got was in Europe. Essentially people do. Badplaces.eu is a great resource, and you can definitely play there, but you're going to be playing 120, 150 ping, and there's going to be shot delay and all that stuff. And from that point, I really wanted to search out and find a way to bring US based or North American based players that still want to play together, to play with decent pings and be able to be able to play without having shot delay and all that stuff. So, yeah. And I mean, I found the US Quake Community, NationwideMoose had put it together, but it was just something that he had, sort of a side project, and he wasn't exactly sure what he was doing with it. And I started making, like the flag art that you see there. I made that for the community and started getting involved a little bit, thinking, hey, maybe, we can get some US players together and play. We started with NetQuake and playing on some servers that were empty with a partnered community at the time. But quickly we grew way faster than we thought we would for QuakeWorld especially. There's a lot of people out there who want to play QuakeWorld that just didn't have a place to go. So at that point, I've spun up our own servers and just started kind of having a dual community between the QuakeWorld servers that we have up and the Discord, and trying to merge those two things together. Because older QuakeWorld players, a lot of them are on IRC or they're searching around the match browser, but they're not really part of any communities per se. So, merging the two things has also been kind of a side project of mine there. But either way, yeah, it's really taken off, and there's a lot of people that are interested in all these old classic id games, whether they're new players or old players. So it's been really fun.
All right, well, that's the interview. I guess I'm done here.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. No, you answered a lot of the questions I was going to ask you already. So which do you favor, QuakeWorld or NetQuake more? Either way.
QuakeWorld.
Okay.
The netcode's better.
Can you explain the difference to maybe an audience member who doesn't know?
Absolutely, yeah. So NetQuake is the multiplayer version of Quake that was released with the game in the box. At that point, multiplayer games, first-person shooter games, if you think about like Doom, were done in an old school sort of token ring style, where you would have a lobby and then multiple people would join that lobby. You'd have a smaller player limit, and then you could launch it once everybody had synced. That's older than me. So, but either way, with Quake, it was pretty revolutionary. The lobby was inside the game, and you could have up to 15 players, versus the 4 to 6, I think, was with Doom at the time. So it was really neat. And it was something that they worked on, of course, but it was more of, I would say, either an afterthought or something that was put in more at the end. I think Quake was a big project to them, and the things that I've read, I don't think that the programmers took as much time with the multiplayer as they kind of wanted to. Mm-hmm. So it came out, and people loved it. And I think it blew up way bigger than they thought it would. And the thing is that John Carmack, who was a programmer on Quake and Quake 2 and Quake 3, he wrote the game and played the game and tested the game from, a $5,000 computer with a T1 line. So to him, he kind of thought when the game came out, broadband would catch up. and he wouldn't have to write in things like server-side prediction code. And what that is when your player has movement data, the server is predicting that your movement will continue in the direction that you're already traveling until you change it, and then the server will change that perception for the other players in the game. So NetQuake doesn't have that.
Something we still struggle with even in modern games.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And so NetQuake is lacking that, and that's a purity thing. That's supposed to be, what happens in the game happened. There is no server messing about, changing around your position. Maybe you weren't actually there, the game cheated kind of thing, and try to get rid of that. But the problem layer with that lied that everybody was on dial-up at the time. So, everybody had, instead of having 150 ping, they had a 300 ping. And without prediction, there's a lot of noticeable lag. Like, I remember it at the time, like you would move and then your player position would be reset because the server didn't get your update fast enough. So because it didn't predict where you were going, it would just put you back where you were. And if somebody had shot you while you were trying to move and it just put you back, then you died. So to combat that, they came up with QuakeWorld, which I think they worked on for a few months. Like, it was delayed for a while. But yeah, I think it came out December 96, somewhere in there.
Carmack drew it together after the release because I'll let you go ahead. Go on with that story.
Well, either way, yeah. So yes, but yeah, Carmack put it together to combat this netcode problem, which added server-side prediction, and it also lifted or raised speed limitations on character movement. And I think a big reason they were able to do that is because of the prediction. The changes really aren't that dramatic, especially at first. When people first started playing it, it just seemed like Quake. But over time, people figured out that the physics were different enough where they discovered things like zigzagging, bunny hopping, advanced movement that sort of inspired the rest of the Quakes from there on out. But that advanced movement difference makes QuakeWorld today, modern QuakeWorld, 20 plus years later, extremely competitive. A lot more competitive, I would say, than NetQuake, just because you have all these different mechanics that are added on top of Quake that you have to contend with that other players can do and that you have to try to perfect, So you find a lot of people in QuakeWorld doing training maps or trick maps or just training in dual maps so that they know where the jumps are or how to, bunny hop all the way around the map without slowing down or things like that. I don't think you get that same experience with NetQuake.
Yeah, QuakeWorld, the competitive scene is as a spectator sport, it's my football. Like, I love it so much. I love watching it. Players, I'm not even good at it. I just enjoy the hell out of the Tasty Spleen competitions or QH LAN and all that, which is coming back this year. And I just actually right before we started this interview, I messaged Locktar because I saw him practicing for the upcoming tournament.
You're talking about the 4v4?
No.
Or are you talking about the new dual tournament?
QH LAN dual. I think they're doing dual and 4v4. I don't want to speak out of turn because I don't have all the information yet, but it's happening sometime in the summer this year, from what I understand.
Yeah, they've got a 4v4 coming up where they just did a draft for that as well. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people signed up for that draft in various divisions. I think they had I can't remember. I don't want to speak out of turn either, but they had a lot of people. They had a lot more than I've seen in previous drafts. And the fun thing is that, about half those people that are in that draft are either in my Discord server or they're playing on my QuakeWorld servers. So that makes me really happy. Especially to see a lot more Americans signing up for these things.
You've inspired a lot of people to pick up the game and to become competitive. So give yourself a round of applause for that. That's awesome.
It is awesome. I'm extremely happy with it. Yeah. And to be honest, the goal for me is definitely to bring back some QuakeWorld players for sure. But I think the thing is that we all grew up and we played Quake some of us. And either way, we played Quake 2 or we played Quake 3 or we played some sort of Quake. And that had an impact on a lot of people, I think, because arena shooters used to be it. It used to be the most popular thing to play. And from there, maybe you go on to Half-Life and Counter-Strike and down the GoldSrc road. But still, before that happened, I think Quake, for people who played PC games, had a major impact. And then we moved on as technology moved on. And as we did, I think, maybe people reinstalled it every so often or took a look at it again, like, oh yeah, this is fun. But I think we always just assumed, because of the popularity that was there in the 90s and in the early 2000s, that there'd always be 20 servers with somebody on them, that just would never go away. Similar to like EverQuest or old Ultima or just other old communities that, for whatever reason, persevere and continue on, and that really sort of didn't happen for QuakeWorld, at least in the United States. Of course, it's still going on, like I say, in Europe, and they're, like you're saying, QHLAN, Thunderdome, Hammer Time. There's a lot of different really European-focused competitive QuakeWorld going on, but not so much here. And so my goal really is, when someone goes to install it for the first time, which would be awesome, or reinstalls it after all these years, when they go to the match browser, they see at least a server with people on it with a decent ping. And I think that makes all the difference in the world, because if someone reinstalls this game and they see no one's playing it, I mean, they just either uninstall it or forget that it's there.
Absolutely.
And that is the critical moment where they look at that match browser and they go to join a game, and they actually can, and they have fun, and that'll remind them, like, hey man, Quake exists and it's really fun to play, and I've kind of forgot about it,
I'm really interested. I mean, it's great people are coming back from the old days. I'm really interested in the perspective of like 15-year-old kids getting into this game for the first time. That blows my mind. And I played Quake 3 like in high school a little bit. I didn't know anything about what we're talking about now, like all this other history to it, and the configs and the mods and all that stuff, or even strafe jumping at the time. But similar path, actually. When I was listening to QuakeCast and talking about, where they were talking with NationwideMoose, it was like, man, how did I miss this guy? I grew up like a couple of towns over from him. I have like the same story of like, I didn't get into Quake until I was in my 20s, and like really get into Quake until I was in my 20s, and also started with Quake Champions, really moving into being competitive and everything. And just the fact that there are kids that are going to be picking this game up going forward is mind-blowing to me, and more of them are doing it every day. And I think that's a result of people like you doing the work that you're doing. And Quake Champions also, I think, has inspired a lot of conversation. Even though maybe people don't like it, they download that game. A kid might download that game thinking, it's like, oh, it's a new game, Quake Champions. All right, I'll try it out. And then maybe they like it and they do the research and they find out about the older games. Or maybe they just hear the endless Reddit box of complaining and bitching about how much better older Quakes were. And then they're like, oh, I'll go try that out if it's better than this game. And it's amazing to me. It's so inspiring, and it's that's the kind of thing that should drive us forward, is like passing our niche genre on to the next generation, as your dad did for you. I wish my dad had been that cool, man. We just played Duke Nukem.
What I think is cool, following that line of thinking as well, is that essentially, like, I see it. I see all the, anywhere from 15 to, in your early 20s and had never played Quake or heard of Quake. I think the cool thing there is that they have played all these other games. They've played Call of Duty. They've played, Half-Life. They've played Counter-Strike. Just look at Counter-Strike Go and its popularity, just in the streaming or in the esports, all those different kind of categories that it can just check off and be like, yeah, we're pretty demanding here. We're, commanding. The GoldSrc engine is based on id Tech 2. So much so that the console commands are very similar. CL_show FPS is there. CL Bob is there. R_ whatever you want is pretty much there in the same. And the story of GoldSrc becoming the source engine is simply that a developer one day said, okay, GoldSrc is pretty solid. I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to make a new folder. Instead of calling it GoldSrc, I'll just call it Source and continue working on it. And that's what they've done. And then, if you look at Source, 2016 now, or whatever version it is that Counter-Strike Go runs on, same thing. Those console commands from Quake 1 are still there. They're all still there. The engines, obviously it's very different. There's new renderers, there's, higher poly counts, there's different, the limits have been completely removed. Like, all this stuff is different. But at the end of the day, they started with the open sourcing of id Tech 2, as did Call of Duty with Infinity Ward. Their engine is also based on id Tech 2.
Team Fortress, all of it.
Yeah. Yep. So there you go, man. It is sort of the birth of this style of multiplayer game. And I don't just mean first-person shooters, I guess. I mean the ability to just connect up and play a game without a lot of riffraff in between and, red tape that you got to go through, and then be in a fully 3D world. That's something that didn't really happen before Quake, and it has been copied and improved and all these different things in all these modern games. But it's interesting to see the source is still being used, and all these source ports, Spike, for instance, with the Forethought engine, FTE QuakeWorld, he's been working on that since 1999. There's a new version that just came out like 2 days ago, and that has a Vulkan renderer as well. That engine is extremely advanced. That can run Quake 1, Quake 2, Quake 3, Hexen 2. It's amazing what people have done with the code, whether it's a hobbyist person in the open source community, or it's a commercial, project such as, something like the source engine.
I wish that build games were of equal value in some ways. I really would like to see, Blood or Duke Match or something like that be as popular, or at least as accessible as these, as Quake has been. But that's a testament to, Quake was designed by a rocket scientist, quite literally, and these other games, not that they weren't extremely intelligent, the people that made them, but they just didn't have the foresight that John Carmack had going forward.
Well, that would be one thing I would say. I myself am a big FLOSS person, an open source advocate, and that is exactly right. When Carmack decided in the late 90s or so, I'm not exactly sure, I think it's 99 or so, to release id Tech 2 as open source, that's just building on what we just talked about. Yeah, that's what's done it, and interestingly enough, I met somebody in doing all this who is working on reverse engineering the original Unreal Engine, because the original Unreal Engine is still locked up with licensing. The source is available, but you can't use it openly. You can't compile it yourself. There's restrictions on the licensing. So what he's doing is reverse engineering it so that there is no licensing restrictions, to try to create a sort of Quake mojo, around this Unreal community, which still exists. The older Unreal games, UT 99 and UT 2004 and stuff like that. Anyway, it's just interesting. I met him and invited him to some of our events, and he's played in every single one of them, like maybe the last 10 or so. I don't know. It's exactly what his goal is, and he's walked into the Quake community from the Unreal community going, "Yes, this is what I want. This is what I want for the Unreal community, for people to not have to run ancient binaries or run XYZ." So it's interesting to see other people with project goals that are similar to what was kind of done in the 90s for Quake come and look at the community and be inspired by it.
I don't even know what it is. You're just like so thorough in every idea that you bring up that I don't know what the next question should be. Like I typically, when I do these interviews, I'll like, you go on a tangent and then I'll have like, okay, well, I'll keep in mind like a bunch of questions that I want to ask after that. And then you always answer every single question I was going to think of before I have the chance to do it.
My apologies.
No, why would you apologize for that? It makes it easy to do this, really.
Sure.
So, yeah, you mentioned Unreal 99 and playing in those. Did you also play those back in the day as well? Or were you
a little tidbit about me. I actually did go to school for game design and development, interestingly enough. And in school, UT 2004 was huge at the time, because it was a recent game and it was the commercial offering for Unreal. So I've actually done mapping in UT 2004, made simple models and applied simple textures to those and made project maps, not really maps that I ever released or anything like that. But yeah, I definitely have played Unreal 2004. I played UT 99 a little bit back when Quake 3 was popular, but I just preferred Quake 3.
So, correct me if I'm misunderstanding. Are you currently, you're playing more QuakeWorld than any other game?
Yep, that's correct. Yep. And I run all of the US Quake Community's QuakeWorld servers. So our servers are at usquake.world. And then we have various ports. But, if you just open your browser and you went to usquake.world, and then you go to port 28,000, you can see our QTV page, which will show all of our different server ports, whether it be FFA, CTF, co-op, all the different ports there. And then it will show, who's playing in them at the time. And then you can actually click a button, which will launch your client and then connect you to a QTV to spectate the game. There's a demos page there too, where you can download demos and such as well from different games that have been played, because each game that gets played in a QuakeWorld server gets recorded server side, so it saves player movement demos.
Unlike
so you
Quake
can get those
Champions.
There. Right, yep, unlike Quake Champions. Yeah, so, yep, I basically focus on QuakeWorld. I do also play Quake 3. The Quake 3 community, the thing that's kind of sad about it is that back when Quake Live came out, all the mappers and modders really kind of moved to Quake Live. And at the time, it was a really novel concept, because it was basically just Quake 3 written in WebGL and in Java, so that you could launch it through your browser. That was the project goal at the time, was just to make Quake 3 super accessible, that you could play for free through a browser.
And that worked.
And yeah, I was in the beta for that. It was awesome. And then Bethesda came along, bought it, changed Quake Live, took it off of the internet, made it not free, and jammed it into Steam for a price tag. So that I feel like the people who had already converted their maps and mods and all their servers and all their stuff over to Quake Live, thinking this was the new Quake 3, kind of got locked into that. And then Bethesda kind of went through and changed, nerfed out the railgun and changed the player physics and changed the game to a point where it's not really kind of Quake 3 anymore. So, some of the players stayed and some of them went back to Quake 3. And the unfortunate thing there is that, the community kind of dried up and the servers kind of dried up. But, in response to that, our partner community, which is Artifacts Quake, they created servers and have sprung up a community similar to what we're doing in the US Quake community to sort of restore kind of people back to playing Quake 3, people who want to. So we've been working with them on the Quake 3 side of things.
I think my buddy Smango is going to be really happy to have heard you say that in public. Because a lot of people you'll talk to will say that Quake Live is the same. It's Quake 3. It's just more accessible. That literally the same thing. But there's so many subtle differences that it doesn't quite address. For instance, like for me, I started playing Quake 3 with no guidance or anyone to tell me how to play it or how to, I didn't understand how when you join a server, you end up with a random group of people. I didn't understand that there were other game modes other than just FFA. I didn't understand all the little codes, like this is CTF, and I would never understood any of that. I would just hop into an FFA server and play whoever happened to be online, or doing it in a LAN in a classroom a bit. But for me, when I load up Quake 3 now, it feels like home, and when I load up Quake Live, it does not have the same. It doesn't have the same. I don't even know what the word to put on it is. It just doesn't feel the same. It doesn't have that ambiance that Quake 3 brought to the table. And furthermore, there are all the different movement issues. There's the console is different. Like, everything is different to me. I don't like it. I don't dislike Quake Live, but I don't have that same place in my soul for it.
It's a hard-pressed thing when you try to take Quake 3 and turn it back into another commercial product after that amount of time. Because what happened in all the Quakes, but Quake 3 especially, was that the movement, the mods, all that stuff, the communities were divided. Mm-hmm. You know, people who play vanilla Quake 3 versus people who play CPMA versus people who play OSP versus people who only specifically play jail mods versus people who only, you know, so to take that and try to jam it all back together, which is what they did. You know, if you hop around and strafe jump and Quake Live, it sort of feels like, well, this is like a mixture between Quake 3 and CPMA.
Yeah.
And that's not good for either. It's not good for Quake 3 and it's not good for CPMA. To be honest, people would play CPMA with vanilla Quake 3 physics rules because, you know, it was just a patched version of Quake 3 that had been worked on and fixed, and that mod was really advanced. So it would have made way more sense in Quake Live to just say, all right, click your physics type. We want vanilla Quake 3 or you want, you know, but instead it's just a conglomeration of it all. And to your point of Quake Champions being an excellent game and really fun, it is. And when you look at what id had to decide to do when they made every single Quake, right? So they made Quake 1, and it had this specific fan base. QuakeWorld, also another specific fan base. So with Quake 2, they tried to sort of limit all of that splitting of fan bases and you know, lock the frame rate at 60 frames per second and change some things to see if it wouldn't segment as much, but it still did. You know, so from there, they went to Quake 3, where they tried to do an ode back to QuakeWorld, where, you know, multiplayer focus and stuff. And every step of the way, from Quake 1 and that specific player base to making Quake 2, you know, it kind of pissed a bunch of people off, you know, that didn't want Quake to kind of go in that direction. And it's not to say that they backpedaled with Quake 3, but they gave Carmack the project and said, here, like, make Quake that everybody wants, you know, make the Quake. You know, and from Quake 3, I mean, I think everybody really liked it, especially when it came out, but there was Quake 2 people and QuakeWorld people and all these other people that were sort of dissatisfied with it. And then Quake 4, everybody was dissatisfied, right?
By the point in Quake 3 that they got to that, Romero had left, and he left it before Quake 2, but
yeah,
slowly over time, like, everyone that was working on the stuff, American McGee, like, they're just like, fuck this, man, this company's not even fun anymore without Romero. And I understand why it had to happen the way it did, but you can definitely see the dream team fall apart moving into Quake 3. I think that's a big aspect of it, and also part of the reason why the maps are the way they are is because Carmack decided to, like, make it easier to separate everyone working in the company because they didn't want to talk to each other. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you end up with all these different the maps that, you know, they have different feels and different looks to them. It used to be like Quake 1 was Lovecraft and medieval, and then Quake 2 was like futuristic and military, and then Quake 3 is like just this jumbled mess of all different things. There was almost no way to make a single player campaign with the mappers currently working on the game not talking to or communicating with each other. So Carmack was like, well, people like the multiplayer deathmatching thing. It's the way of the future anyway. So let's just roll it out like that. We'll have, like, you can just go through the slipgate into different universes and battle there, which has ultimately led us to Quake Champions, where it's just like each drowned guy, or Cathala has a a map or a couple of maps, and then like Azathoth has certain maps that just they belong to different creators of different universes, and the Slipgate is the journey into those different places. I think I'll get into the lore now. Excuse me, please, but I think it's just a. It's not even. It couldn't have been planned. It happened organically, where we're at now.
Well, and it did happen organically, and I would say my previous point I was trying to get to there was that with Quake Champions, when they took a look at what they did with Quake Live, and it was popular for a time. But either way, when they took a look at that, they were like, okay. And they took a look at all these previous releases where they had upset people or, abandoned this community or abandoned that one or whatever, however they wanted to look at it. I think what they ended up doing was taking all of the movement and all of the physics and all of everything and jamming it into one game, because that would be the easiest way to piss off everyone the least. But ultimately, I don't think it's hugely successful in a competitive standpoint, just because it's hard to balance all of that. I mean, beyond the powers, even if you take the hero MOBA stuff out of it, still all of the movement differences and the loadout differences just make it extremely hard to be competitive. And I do like their 3 different champion dual sets and stuff like that. So you can't, ride a champion that has more armor set or has better movement ability.
They're implementing kind of classic timed duel into the game now.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah. That's good. That's good as well. Yeah. But I guess I like it that a Quake player can walk into Quake Champions and they can pick their movement style. They can say, all right, I like Quake 3, so I'm going to go play with a character that basically just strafe jumps. Okay, I like CPMA. I'm going to go play with Anarchy or Sorlag, or I like QuakeWorld, so those are my only ones I can pick.
Even Athena with Quake 4 movement.
Yep. Yeah. Or Slash, right, with the slide, with the crouch slide. But I wish it was more apparent in your face. Like, all right, click which Quake game you like the most or you came from, and then we'll show you some characters you should probably use, and then we'll give you tips on how to do that strafe jump bunny hop thing you want to do. I think that would be really helpful for them, for returning Quake players and for new ones to understand that there is different movement or there is different sort of physics for each character.
Well, I think that's on us as the community to shepherd people in the right direction. People, they start Quake Champions for the first time and they're like, what characters do you recommend starting with? And my always stock answer is Ranger. People with normal vanilla Quake, just regular strafe jumping movement. And because if you don't have any experience at all, then go with that. Or if they're like, I used to play CPMA back in the day, you can point them to Anarchy or Sorlag, whatever, and they'll just gravitate towards that. But to your point, it makes the game very difficult to balance, right? Because if you have Anarchy in CPMA, or Slash or Sorlag, CPMA was designed essentially to make it you'd be able to gain speed really quickly and move faster. So you're not going to be able to catch them. And they're trying to be in a perpetual loop of trying to patch the game, trying to make it fair. And even in Time Duel, we're going to see that happen where, you could try all you want, but if you pick the wrong character, you might just end up screwed over. I don't know if it's going to be, it may be out by the time this is published, but you may see the ability to change characters every time you die or something to that effect. I'm not sure how they're going to be able to balance the game ever. It'd be best if they want to do classic Time Duel, just make everybody be Ranger and be done with it. No orb. You just have the option to play original Quake deathmatch or duel in this current in the current servers or in the current maps. Maybe that could be an option. I don't know.
I would agree. I mean, if there was a little checkbox for no powers and only Ranger, that would be great. Oh, there is. Okay. Yeah. Interesting. So can you play games that are ranked like that, or do you have to play? No. Is that that's custom only?
Yeah, it's custom only. Turning off the powers. That's
yeah. I guess that's what I mean. Is like if they would add it to like the actual competitive modes would make more sense. But yeah.
But another thing I've noticed talking, I'm sorry. If you are trying to play Quake in the Quake Champions in a duel format or in a CTF format, even when I talk to players who actually play like highly competitively, for instance, Cygib was on the show recently. He doesn't seem to have the same issues that all of the rest of us have with the game. Like this idea that like, well, you can't possibly catch Anarchy, or you can't get past Scale Bearer if he charges you, or like, how am I supposed to kill him? That doesn't even seem to occur to someone like him, who just his goal is like, well, I'm going to figure out how to win, and that'll be that. I'm going to figure out how to like what's the best champion for me to pick to counter this champion. And I think that's the intention with Quake Champions, modern, whatever you want to call it, modern Quake is it's another aspect of the game, is to pick who you play and be skilled with different types of movements so that you can put yourself in a position to win. So it happens almost before you even start playing. And that's another divider between now and then, is that it used to just be, we know we're even, so we know who won based on exactly, like, just it's who played better. I don't know. Absolutely.
There are other games that have been balanced for 20 years that Counter-Strike Go, for instance. I mean, there's not much blaming the game when you lose. I mean, it's skill. Just like QuakeWorld or just like Quake 3, there's skill. I mean, there is no advantage. But yeah, and I feel though that a lot of people take a look at those disadvantages or those differences, and that's sort of why they start to look for older games, where they know the balance is there because people have been playing it for 15, 20 years. So that's part of my appeal, I'd like to say, like in our community, is looking back and seeing where all of these game mechanics started, getting down to their purest form, and really learning that skill, honing it, seeing how far you can go, and then seeing, because a game like QuakeWorld, the skill ceiling is astronomical.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many different levels of skill. You'll never play against the best person in the world, and even if you do, there might be another one, a couple weeks from now.
You're talking about your guys, that were people from your server that are joining the 4v4 tournaments. Like, they're probably going to run into Milton and get crushed.
Yep, that's a possibility.
Like, Milton's still out there, Locktar is still out there. Like, there's still this, and even like, I want to say the last QH LAN, I think Locktar ended up losing to like a really young kid who had just like decided he wanted to play competitive Quake and was amazing. I can't remember his name. Is it like Recall? I wish I could remember his name and not sound like an idiot talking about this, but whatever. Point is, you're exactly right that the skill ceiling is incredible. Like, there's so much learning you can do. That's the appeal of arena shooters in general. And going from, you could talk about QuakeWorld, Quake 3, once you have, rocket jumping and like really, fast weapons, unlike Quake 2, and you have all, you can rocket jump in Quake 1, but it's not the same. I'm just saying. It ain't the same as Quake 3. Once you get to the point where you're bouncing off walls and you're like able to move in all these crazy different directions that were never possible before, the skill ceiling just goes. It's exponential every time. It just turns into a whole nother equation you have to throw into the game.
Yeah. I would say that you're right, that rocket jumping is different between QuakeWorld and Quake 3. The biggest difference is self-damage. Mm-hmm. In Quake 3, the self-damage is very low with rockets. So, I mean, you can see somebody on a defrag race map going 3,000 UPS faster, and they just use rockets to continue to propel themselves forward. There's a lot more splash damage in Quake 1 or QuakeWorld with your rocket. I mean, really, if you're not armored up, you don't want to rocket jump more than once, unless that rocket jump got you armor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a different balance to it for sure.
And long distance fighting, like railguns, they're not there. You don't have to worry about that as much.
Yeah, and that's sort of why I say that Quake 3 is sort of an ode to QuakeWorld. Yes, there is the railguns, which completely changes the dynamic of the game, but a lot of the same effects are there. Like the shotgun, for instance, travels across the map instantaneously in Quake 1. So if you fire your shotgun, it will go all the way to the end of the map in no time. So there is no time difference. The same thing is true of the machine gun in Quake 3. And so those two weapons, beyond the railgun, which I think it does have an unlimited distance. So beyond the railgun, it is the only weapon that has an unlimited distance. So if you're far enough away from someone where they're trying to get you with lightning, or they're shooting a rocket, which obviously will get there, but not instantaneously, you can take them out with a shotgun or a machine gun, similarly with Quake 3. So their weapon balance is very similar to each other, in the way that lower end weapons are extremely useful, and it sort of takes time to learn how fast they are, or what their distance travel rate is, and stuff like that. But yeah, I would say both of those games have the rocket jump as a main mechanic. They have all of their weapon sets are similar, and they all add to the mechanic. Whereas Quake 2 is a little bit different, and whereas their weapon fire rate's a lot lower. Rocket jumping definitely happens, but I don't think it's as much a necessity on those maps, and it's not widely used, I don't think, competitively. And they do have competitive tournaments for Quake 2. I've seen that, so I haven't gotten too much into that though, personally.
Have you tried any modern games, like newer games that have similar mechanics, just to see what's out there now? Reflex, DuskWorld.
Yeah, I've checked out Dusk.
I love Dusk. Dusk is my favorite arena game right now to play.
Dusk is really fun. I think Dusk has some things it could add. I mean, there's no drop system for one, so your weapons are just based on where you grab them off the map. The infinite bunny hop, that's extremely easy to do, is cool and fun, I guess. But it makes it really hard for each. I mean, it's just really hard to aim, I guess. I'm more of a QuakeWorld player, I guess, where your bunny hop is going to be used sparingly because A, it makes noise, and B, once you have your items, you don't really need to be going that fast around the map. But in DuskWorld, every person is just moving a million miles an hour. It's a lot of fun.
I can wide FOV for that game. Big.
Yes,
big
seriously wide. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like that one. I don't know, other modern shooters that are arena-like. I guess not. I mean, I play Champions every now and then just to sort of check out its updates. I'm not really a Champions player. To be honest with you, I sort of stopped playing AAA games a long time ago. I would say maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I stopped buying them regularly. And then I got into indie games. I really like companies like what's that one, Fulbright. They make games like Gone Home, Tacoma, that some people might call a walking simulator, but they are incredibly well written and well designed. They have a lot of depth, stuff you just don't see from AAA as much anymore. I played.
They're handcrafted.
I mean, I played the Metro games, the first two, and I actually read those books before those games came out, and that's where I thought that game could have some depth, being based on a novel. But even there, I felt kind of lackluster, so I really feel like it's the indies that have all of the creativity behind them. And if you're looking for something that's not cookie cutter, it's hard to look at AAA studios these days. That's why I'm so excited about studios like 3D Realms that's about to put out Wraith and are working on Ion Maiden. Game companies that are literally using older engines or open source modern versions of these older engines to make new games is awesome.
And
it is.
Yeah. New Blood as well.
Yeah, Blood, right? That's Nightdive is doing the Blood port, or the new modern Blood.
Oh, you just open. I was just talking about the game company New Blood, but now tell me more about this. Someone's working on a...
Yes. Yeah, so the company Nightdive, they do... what they look to do is get licenses for games that are obscure, and then, let's not say recreate them, and improve them and release them for modern systems. So the one that I'm thinking of right now is Strife, which is
wow.
that's a Doom. What do you want to call it there? Sort of a predecessor to modern Fallout games, or Morrowind games, where it's like a first-person RPG. We have quests and stuff like that. Well, the interesting part about Strife is that the source code was never released, and it was actually lost. So the developers that developed that game sold off their Next Step servers where they stored this source. Sorry if I'm getting any of this wrong. And then they when they got rid of that, obviously, I think Carmack himself went to those developers to look to release the Strife source code to do a similar thing like they did for Doom and for Quake, and they didn't have it. And they still don't have it. And there was no, so Nightdive Studios, I think this might have been their premier game project. But what they did is they looked to reverse engineer the source first. And they worked on that. I think they might even still be working on that since like 2014-ish. But ultimately what they did is they worked with the Chocolate Doom community and developers to be able to make a really awesome modern port of Strife and re-release that. And I actually bought that and played that, and that is awesome. I mean, it is an ode to
the version currently available on Steam.
I think it's on GOG. I'm not sure if it probably is on Steam. Yeah, it's Strife Veterans Edition.
Send it to me after this.
All right, yeah, it's the Veterans Edition. So they also now have gotten the license for Blood. And they are doing something similar for that game as well. The interesting thing about Blood is it is a build engine game, but it is extremely different than Duke Nukem 3D. And the reason for that is because, well, it's a different developer, but that developer worked with Ken Thompson directly as he was the engine developer on Build, but had a lot of falling outs with him. And I think ultimately they pretty much rewrote the engine. There are parts of Build that are still in there, but as far as I understand, they have their own software renderer, they have their own memory management system that's not included in the Build engine. It's a much more advanced engine, Blood, the original Blood, than Duke Nukem 3D. So in their efforts to sort of use eDuke 32 or another open source port to recreate Blood, I'm sure is going to be a massive undertaking. But yeah, they're doing a similar project that they did with Strife with Blood right now.
Dude, you've blown my mind. You're that is such good news. I've been playing Blood GDX for a bit now with some friends from my server. I can't wait to see that project come through and to play Strife as well.
Yeah, I guess GDX is awesome. Yeah, that is. Yeah,
I guess the last thing I wanted to ask you about before I let you get back to your life and your child is you guys, from what I've seen, heard, when you play QuakeWorld in your server, you guys don't play a lot of the original maps like DM6, DM2, DM4. A lot of cool mods going on. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Yeah. So, when we started out, we did do a lot of the vanilla maps. But I guess we sort of realized that we had a small FFA, player base for our events, and most of them aren't looking to play vanilla maps anymore. So we kind of moved on to using popular dual maps. I look at servers that are on badplaces.eu and what kind of dual rotation they have or smaller FFA rotation they have, and kind of went with those custom maps, and it's been kind of tweaked over time. But yeah, we do have a couple of cool side projects that we sometimes are hosting. We have an AirQuake server that we have hosted in the past. So AirQuake is a mod where essentially you're in the Quake engine, you're in the world of Quake, but you're a plane or a tank. And so it's kind of like you're playing Battlefield, but in Quake. We also were able to get a Quake Rally server working with I think it's the version, it's Quake Rally 1.2, and then you merge it with the update file. So it becomes kind of like Quake Rally 1.3, but yeah. And so all these old games, I myself I have been able to get them working, or the old mods have been able to get them working server side with FTE QuakeWorld server, because that can actually handle both QuakeWorld and NetQuake physics and clients. So if you have like old mods, for instance, that were created for NetQuake, such as Airquake or Quake Rally, or there's thousands quests, the one where it's battle chess with Quake characters and monsters. I mean, there's a lot of really old popular ones, niche ones that were only made for NetQuake. But you can actually get it so QuakeWorld clients can connect to them and NetQuake at the same time with FTE server. So that's something really cool and interesting we've been working on. We have a deathmatch version of that as well, the FTE QuakeWorld server that we host sometimes, but it's more of a special side project thing. But really what it is that you can do FFA or matched games where both NetQuake and QuakeWorld players can play, and we can set server side what the physics will be. So whether it's going to be NetQuake physics or QuakeWorld physics, whatever your preference is for that event. Something we haven't really rolled out. We kind of work on it with some members of the NetQuake community and the QuakeWorld community and test it in private. We have had like a mini event for it. But yeah, we do mods and special stuff. And I've been looking to do more things to get into it more. But to be honest, like just wrapping my head around modern KTX and modern regular QuakeWorld server mods is been a task. I mean, I do IT in my day job, and I am a server administrator. But I've never run QuakeWorld servers myself. So just getting the hang of KTX, unmatched versus matched, different configs for every single map or every single game mode, or different maps on those game modes, or a QuakeWorld server is really just 1,000 different configs that need to be written correctly. So yeah. Now that I've kind of got a good handle on that, we have been doing some more kind of specialized stuff, and I would look out for that in the future. We're always looking to do cool special events with older mods.
What I really would like to over time see with you guys is if you could make QuakeWorld like really competitive in North America, and we could have like real events similar to what they're doing in Europe, that would be astronomical and bring the community together in a huge way. Like if we could all meet up in, I don't know, Denver and have a huge LAN party and a big competition, that would blow my mind. I don't think anything would make me happier than seeing something like that happen. QuakeCon's not even awesome. Supporting Quake 1 tournaments as much anymore, so that would be
awesome. Yeah. And nothing official, but we have been talking about doing a Thunderdome style tournament. Mm-hmm. And the way that they do it is they schedule it over a couple of months, and they kind of get everybody together whenever they can and play their duels or play their matches, whether it's going to be, like a 2v2 or 4v4, a dual match or whatever it may be. So we have been talking about doing it. We have been thinking about doing it. I mean, we've set up bracket systems and kind of had a dry run of it before. But we are looking to do more competitive tournaments. We are sort of like a pub community where we really don't want to have any pressure on our players or anything like that. But for the ones that do want to do competitive stuff, we are looking to have an option for those players as well. And I think, since there are so many American players that are already playing in Thunderdome and Hammer Time and all these tournaments that are already happening, I think we have more than enough talent and players in the United States to have a US-based one. Not to say that, people around the world couldn't play as well, just like they do in the European tournaments. But it would be nice for those competitive players to not have to play with a super high ping. I mean, that would be awesome.
We need 8, maybe 16 top players in the nation to just get together and do this. And I would be more than willing to help in any way that I can. And if you need a caster, I will be at that event. I don't care what I have to do to get out of work. I'll be there. So,
well, we'd love to have you.
Let's make that. Let's make that shit happen. Absolutely. All right, man.
I'm excited about it for sure. We got to get the competitive tournament stuff rolling because we just just to be able to talk to people and play with people that are that passionate, that play Quake every single day. They will play every day, whether there's somebody playing or not, and put that much time into honing that skill is something that really should be featured. It's something that really should be shown off. It's like, yeah, it's really cool to kind of watch somebody play Quake Champions and own an FFA match, or watch somebody play, Counter-Strike and whatever in competitive $250,000 tournament and that level of skill. But it's nothing like watching QuakeWorld. QuakeWorld is mind-boggling to watch people just control these maps, just to know every single little rock, every little lift, every little ledge, everywhere to go and what to do and to, camp the power-ups and everything that they do in competitive Quake World is so different than modern games that I would love to really show it off and to get a good audience for that. Would be awesome.
It's the only game where you see scores, like dual scores of, 99 to -3.
Yep.
And at a professional level, like you really, really see who's the dominating force.
And in that game, the very next map, that it just flip flops because they know the map so well. Knowing the maps and map control is that important. It could just turn itself on its ear. So it is awesome.
It's something that I talked a lot with Locktar about, though. It's just each player, like, this is his map. We know he's got, and you'll see that happen all the time. To your point, it's just go from Airwalk to DM4, totally different game. Not even the same. It might as well not even be playing the same sport. It just changes completely.
I literally did that yesterday, and that exact thing happened. So, yep, that is how it works.
I can't say enough how much this has been awesome. You're like such a your wealth of knowledge is completely just kind of impressed and intimidated me in a way. I don't even know how I would ever catch up to you at this point. And you've been super articulate. You've been more than I could have ever bargained for, man. I really appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, no problem, man. This is a lot to learn. And we've only been at this in the US Quake Community group and myself I've probably only been playing Quake for 4 months again. And that's, it does take this level of dedication. Like, I think we admin more than we play, but you know what? More people play because of it. And we'll keep doing that as long as it takes.
We're at the exact same story. What we're doing. We need to get, I need you, me, Moose, Spaced, all need to get in the same chat together, start figuring some stuff out. I think there's a lot to be done that we could really amplify the Quake community in America. We got to do this. It's my imperative as the prophet of the drowned god Gathala to get as many people playing this game as possible.
I am the Messiah of QuakeWorld. So together we will bring Quake back to life. Yes, happy Easter, everyone.
Take care, buddy. Hope you enjoyed that conversation with the Messiah of QuakeWorld as much as I did. Man, he's like crazy good at talking. It's just scary the way he already knew what I was going to say before I said it sometimes. And I had such a good time chatting with him. And we'll continue to do so going forward. I think we've got to look at a kinship between the Keep and the USQC now, a bit of a, synergistic relationship. So lock and load, man. Can't wait to get that stuff going. A few little, housekeeping notes I want to say before we get into the plugs. First of all, if you guys checked out the Locktower episode when it first went live on Spotify, you probably noticed how the notes were all jacked up. If you didn't, thank God. I didn't want you to see that because Spotify just kind of right now sucks at show notes. It takes out all the spaces and enters and everything. So I've revitalized that. All the show notes will still continue to be on YouTube along with the timestamps, but for now, everything else will be just like a short description, and then you'll have links to the Discord and the website so you can actually get to those links easily. Rock and roll, man. And then the SoundCloud, I know a lot of people listen to the shows on SoundCloud. I currently do not. There is a SoundCloud page, but I'm not going to make it public until I can actually get everything uploaded to it. It's a bit of a pain because I don't want to pay for SoundCloud because that's not the hosting that I'm using. The host that I'm using is much better as a host. But we'll get there eventually, don't worry. Otherwise, there's plenty of other places you can check out the show. Join the Keep, guys. If you'd like to, you are invited. We're always doing stuff. We got pickup games going 24/7, man. Well, there's downtime, but pretty much anytime I feel like you can get in contact with somebody if you want to play something nowadays. Like it's popping. We got all the info on the podcast. All our events will be posted there. You can check out allied channels and like find a whole list of other awesome AFPS oriented communities with their own events or whatever it is that they do. And it's just the best way to get info. It's the best way to support. You can also follow on Twitch and YouTube. That's fucking awesome if you do. If you want to support the show monetarily, that exists. You can go through our PayPal link, the Patreon link, or the Amazon affiliate link. I'm sure you know how each of those things works. If you don't, I will spell out at least the Amazon affiliate link, because some people that's kind of new to. You just click on that bad boy and you order whatever you were going to order to begin with, and it costs you nothing extra, but we get a little bit of a kickback, and that all goes back into the community fund, which is cool because it makes the show better and it makes our events better and all that good stuff. So please do go check that out if you would like to. Let's see, previous episodes, you should listen to those. Obviously, we've got a pretty solid catalog. They're all there. They're all just waiting for you to come discover them. If you liked this one, surely you'll like some of the other ones. So you can like, subscribe, review on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, blah, 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 all that good stuff, man. We'd love it if you did, because it just gets the word out there, and that's the best thing you could really do, even if you don't do any of these other things, is just tell your friends, because word of mouth is kind of the way that this whole thing works anyway. Just might as well tell everybody, shout it from the rooftop, "In the Keep is awesome," and most of the people will probably think you're crazy, but the people that don't think you're crazy, hopefully will come check out the show. Again, if you like this podcast or other podcasts similar to it that you probably enjoy, Full Tech Podcast, that's ran by my boy Smango, who also runs QuakeFans.net, which is now the home of In the Keep. See the synergistic tie-in there? He also runs KentuckyNerd.com, which is full of like retro game stuff, not necessarily AFPS, but just whatever he feels like. And check out his YouTube pages, QuakeFans YouTube. It's freaking awesome. Lots of cool stuff going on there, man. QuakeCast, Dump Truck and RC, the Quake mapping community. Those guys are kicking ass, dude. They're always one step ahead of me, and I gotta catch them, because I'm just kidding, man. They're awesome. Go check them out for real. Synergy's the best way. And then State of Wake podcast, go back through their catalog. We're no longer in the same feed, so you'll actually have to search it out if you're hearing this. But hey, man, they got cash prize events going on all the time. Slip and Encounter, awesome. I can't wait for Slip to come back from his little vacay and get back in there. I've also been casting for a lot of their events lately. Maybe you've heard me through there. I don't know. And Multiplayer Doom Federation Radio Network on YouTube. You can check out their show. It's just kind of like talking about the innards of their community, which is really neat if you're involved in it. And if you're not, you should get involved in it. You can go find them on Discord. Multiplayer Doom Federation. Upcoming events. Man, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. First of all, QuakeWorld QH LAN 2019, Silkeborg, Denmark, August 29th through September 3rd. Holy shit, that's going to be cool. I would give anything to be able to just take off work and go to that, dude. I got to assume Tasty Spleen will be involved somehow. All the best fucking, QuakeWorld players are going to be there. Milton, I'm hoping Locktar shows up. I think he's training. I can't really tell. It's top secret, I guess. I don't know. Definitely go to that if you're going to be in Europe during that time period. QuakeCon 2019, July 25th through the 29th. I'll definitely be there with some other guys from the Keep. New Blood will be there. A bunch of awesome shit going on. And yeah, State of Quake, Slip, Unkind, and D-Ron will all be hanging out with us too at the LAN. So definitely, come say hi to us, give us a big hug. Give D-Ron the biggest hug ever, because man, that guy just loves to get hugged and sweated on by gross, sweaty dudes. I'm sure of that. You should definitely do it. Unless you're not a gross, sweaty dude, in which case do not hug D-Ron, because he doesn't like that. Just kidding. Moving on. USQC, that they do all their weekly stuff. You just heard a whole fucking podcast about it. I won't get into it. Master Arena is an alpha. You can get a code at their website or on their Discord. Master Arena is awesome. If you like UT, you might like Master Arena. If you like Quake, you might like Master Arena. Either way, you should still check out their game, because it's good no matter what. Quake Crew, big announcement. No more sack Sundays. Killer Nukem is sick and tired. Quake Champions not doing what the fuck he says. So he's moving the community on Sundays more towards a Slipgate Arena oriented thing. That game's pretty cool, man. It's kind of like It's like Halo, Portal, Quake something, I don't know, man, but it's cool, and you should check it out, because those guys are awesome, and I believe in them when they say that they like something, it's probably good, so hell yeah. Other events on Sunday, Plague TV's Shub Cup, that's a really cool tournament he's been putting on. I think he's moving into the second season of it, but like monitor his channel Sundays, the Shub Cup, Plague TV. I shouldn't have to sell this to you guys. Plague's awesome. He's like one of the best casters out there and one of the coolest people you'll ever meet. So do that. New one, Giblets, New Zealand, Australia, Unreal Tournament 99 and Old School FPS Community. They're the home of the Jib. That's actually in the quotes. Man, that's awesome. Home of the Jib. I like it. Wish I had come up with that. I could have been the home of the Jib. Too bad. And you can check them out at giblets.com. That's giblets.com. That's how you spell .com, in case you didn't know. And one other big one, Sub-Zero Arena. Those guys have reached out to me. I got to see their Kickstarter videos and everything, but holy crap, man. If you're into like freeze tag and stuff, it's a modern day old school shooter inspired by like Wolfenstein, Enemy Territory, Quake 3, Halo, and it's coming to PC. But the catch is their Kickstarter ends on Friday, June 14th at 12. I'm reading this number wrong. It ends on June 14th. You don't have a lot of time, but get over there and give them your fucking money, because their game looks really cool, and Titan and Zion are developing it, and you should definitely just go fucking do that right now, or else everyone's going to be pissed at you because the game didn't get made because you didn't fund it. My boy, Sunpraiser, he's working on some cool shit, mod stuff for IO Quake 3 or Open Arena, depending on who takes interest in it, I guess. But if you're looking for a cool project and you're good at coding and you'd like to take on something, definitely hit him up in the Keep. The Individualist Sunpraiser. He's a really cool guy, really smart guy, and he's got a really cool idea that I'm not going to fully disclose here for you guys to just like make public yet. But I don't know, man. If you're just one of those freakazoid dudes that's not scared to just go out there and see what's going on, hit him up. And also, man, guys, no one has sent me any craft beer yet. So if you got some sweet ass craft beer, if you know someone who makes it and you want to send some to the podcast, or they want it reviewed by someone who really likes beer, I'm your fucking guy. Without any more bullshit, peace out, guys. I love you, and you should stay in the Keep.